We are telling you the truth. Question us after 1 year.
Ruth, unaona Wakenya wavumilie, watumie unga ya marijuana.
Watalala njaa 365 days from the 9th.
But they know the truth.
But they will die. No, let's be frank. Of course, we do not need a list of 10 items. I would almost agree, but we do not need a list of 10 items kufurahisha wa Kenya that we can accomplish all this in 100 days. Tuweke vitu realistic. Mkenya aweza kupata chakula. Yule mama anaangalia watoto peke yake aweze kupata pesa ya kulipa rent, kulipa school fees. But telling Kenyans to wait for 1 year, I think it's a long time.
The truth is,
it's such a long time.
Truth. And you know, someone who's been in government, I know they're laughing at us, but the truth is, government policy is about trade-off. What is working for our country? What is working for our people? So if we come here and say, tutaangusha bei ya mahindi, farmers walitoka Ushago, they came to Nairobi. There is rural to urban migration. They are border riders because farming doesn't have money. It is about us giving the conducive environment for agriculture to thrive. Watu warudi Ushago, they grow the maize, they grow the marijuana, they do the Mira Act, and actually we are giving Kenyans an alternative. If you're a Mira farmer, continue doing, no problem. But we need Kenyans to know it's not about the government doing things. We won't lie to you, and that is why leaders or politicians lie to us. It's about telling Kenyans the truth. Here is a trade-off between a very bad situation and a worse situation.
I think I think agriculture has money. Sijui kama hapo tutakubaliana, lakini farmers agriculture has money. I will give an example. My grandmother amekuwa ametegemea majani chai. They have brought up she brought up 8 children. Lakini sai mkulima wa sai analia. So if we restore back our economy, that means hata ule mtu hajasoma ataweza kuongeza pesa kwa mfuko, na tuweze pia kukata hii importation tunaleta ya michele, na kuna project kuna schemes kama za Moya tunaweza patia wakulima nafasi to boost themselves back, na Wakenya waweze kupata chakula ya kukula. Just like even the maize, people are having maize in the granary. Kwa nini tunaleta mahindi kutoka nje? Tupatie nafasi wa Kenya wajijenge. I believe farming has money.
Yes.
Pia ule akona ng'ombe ananunuliwa maziwa 30 shillings lakini inauzwa 60. Half a liter. Wacha tujaribu kubalance out.
Sikusema agriculture doesn't have money.
You said
but
it.
when you wait, as it is, the global prices, declining global prices. Sahi watu wakisi wanasema 1 kg of coffee or tea wananunuliwa 30 shillings farm gate prices. Sugar cane inatoka 4,112 per ton. Sahi mahindi 3,000. Na sahi ekelea fertilizer. So the input cost of agriculture as it is so costly that you as a farmer you're not getting money. Na niongea about maziwa ata dairy farmer. By the way, hemp produces animal feed. So our tukitengeneza animal feed which is very costly as it is, ina impede maziwa production. Kutakuwa na so much milk that Roots Party is telling Kenyans, and we are promising Kenyans, kutakuwa na maziwa ya Roots na mayai ya Roots, because animal feed will be affordable. Kenyans can take milk as they wish. So our purpose is to reduce import costs in agriculture, but agriculture has money.
No, that one I quoted you, Justina, and I think the pricing right now of the food products is because of a leadership issue. It's nothing that the Kenyans cannot produce. Tuko na mchanga, tuko na maadili. We only need to give Kenyans ile nafasi waweze kulisha Wakenya wenzao. Just that. Let's stop saying ati mahindi it's intoxins, whereas the strategy is kuleta mahindi binafsi, unaleta hapa kwa nchi, unajitengeneza wewe mwenyewe, lakini unafinya yule mkulima ako pale Murang'a, ako pale Kisumu, hawezi pata return on investment. Kwa hivyo let us try to promote what we have locally, because this is a blessed nation.
Justina, in 60 seconds, listening to you, then it sounds like it begins and ends with marijuana farming.
That is part of our manifesto, and agriculture is the core principle in our manifesto. Let me say this snake farming. As it is, 3 Kenyans die out of snake bites as it is. And we have a law called Wildlife Conservation Act 2013. And this gives us the option of having this snake farming as an income generating activity. So even if you go to KWS right now, the law is there. Ours was just to amplify that voice and give options. Like I was saying, 3 people are dying every day because of snake bites. And why? The antivenom we import in this country is from South Africa and India mainly. But there are over 3,000 species of snakes in the world. So maybe the snake that will bite you didn't have that antivenom. And if it's antivenom, one vial goes for 13,500. And you need between 5 to 10 vials ndio upone hiyo kumwa na nyoka. So ideally utakuwa na 135,000 ya kupona hiyo snake bite. What is our agenda? Our agenda is to look at what we have. We have snakes around. One, we'll have the venom industry. This is where unasikianga mtu kushagua amesoma biochemistry, but you don't know where they're going to work. We are going to bring them into this pharmaceutical industry where they are getting the antivenom so that we can compete in the international market.
Right.
And then protect the 3 Kenyan lives who die because of snake bites.
Ruth, in 1 minute, story ya nyoka.
Story ya nyoka ninasema for our government Agano party, we cannot deal with snakes surely. Tutafunga kwa compound ama ni kuku tutaweka
There is a law.
ndio tupate mayai. Then again, how much do we have to wait for this venom itoshe ndio Wakenya waweze kupata medication, whereas we are going to start probably, if at all they get the chance to lead from 10th, tutaanza kurea from 10th ama tuko na za kutosha Kenya. What business do we have putting in snakes here?
We have amplified what is there. There is a law, Wildlife Conservation Act 2013. Today is 2022, so it's been there for a while. And it gives this leeway for wildlife snake farming as an income generating activity. Let me tell you, our idea is making Kenya an export hub, putting money in the pockets of Kenyans. Ndio tunapata ile foreign exchange tulikuwa tunaambiwa tukiwa shule, ati Kenya is earning foreign exchange from wherever. So yetu ni ya kwamba, let's get other alternatives, income generating activities for Kenyans and to sustain our export manifesto.
So how much venom do we need probably?
Like I said, do the math. 1 vial goes for
Mimi siwezi fanya math ya
13,000. You can check, you can Google. 1 vial goes for 13,500. If we do it locally, we are going to lower the cost. And remember, even your government, if you win, is going to incur the cost of importing antivenom. So why not have our own here so that we can lower the cost and save the lives of Kenyans as we create an industry? An industry for this venom thing. There's someone at home amesoma biochem. Me unaonanga ama pharmacist sijui nani. They only sell in chemists. There is no employment. Our target ni kuemploy everyone. Mwenye amesoma asiregret. Mwenye hajasoma kuko na hizi zingine economies anaweza invest in. So yetu ni kuweka pesa mkononi.
Na Bi Justina, ni baki kwako kabla kurudi kwake, na una muda wa dakika 2 kuweza kujibu hili. Kwa yule mtazamaji au mkulima ambaye anakutazama sasa hivi, imekuwa vigumu kwake kulima mahindi yake au kahawa yake, majani chai na kusafirisha nje. Itakuwa vipi kwake ukianza kumwambia sasa tufuge nyoka tusafirishe sumu? Kama hawezi kusafirisha mahindi, ataweza vipi kuuza katika soko la kimataifa sumu ya nyoka, fisi?
Haya, niseme hivi. Bangi, nyoka already kuna frameworks na ziliwekwa 2013, tutafuata hizo. But bangi, ile challenge mkulima sasa yako nayo, tukaangalia kama ni farmer, kuna watu wanaitwa KTDA au coffee board au wote. They come here, they take your produce, they go sell it and then come back to pay you. Many times wanakuja wanakuambia, you even you owe us. Unaona? And that is why farmers wanakasirika, wanasema hii ni ya nini? Our idea of marijuana, because this is fresh, snakes is in the law. Idea of marijuana is we are going to cut down these brokers, these KTDAs atuataki. Hii tunasema buyer representative anakuja kwa gate yako. If you've sold 50 kgs, we are going to ensure ananunua according to the price, market price. You're given your money cash as opposed to venye KTDA inapatianga farmers annually. This farmer needs to educate their children, anataka kusustain maisha yake. That is why farming is no longer lucrative. So we are going to cut off the brokers au watu wote wako katikati na buyer representative. Kama ananunua, anakuja kwa farm gate, anachukua produce, anapatia cash, unajipanga na pesa yako.
Na hao nyoka wataiko wapi? Ni kwamba mtajenga vibanda. Unajua sasa hivi ukienda kule mashambani, kila mtu ana mahali ambapo anaweka kondoo, ng'ombe. Kwa hivyo sasa utajenga pia panyoka, fisi na vitu vingine.
Na hii agenda yetu inaleta msisimuko. But I'm happy because Kenyans are opening up their mindset. Maneno ya nyoka. There is the Wildlife Conservation Act 2013 that stipulates the process and the procedures and the systems. KWS itakuja kwako. You give you show interest, yeah? Expression of interest. Before they give you a license, wanakuja kwako na wana inspect. So hiyo sitaongelea sana because already the law was passed by parliament. But this is the idea. Unaenda express interest, unaambiwa before upewe license, they have to inspect your premises. Can you afford? So we are going to use KWS. And Kenya is not devoid of experts. Wako, watatusaidia on how best we can cash in on this. Na nimesema, it is being done because we import venom from South Africa and India. They are doing it. Why not us?
Ruth, utafuga nyoka?
I think for Agano Party, our governance, we leave the snakes to the zoo. Tunakuja kuziona, tunaziangalia, tunasoma. That's good for us.
Pesa nayo.
Justina,
Yes.
I'm looking at this from a practical point of view.
Yes.
If you want to introduce, let's say, tea farming or maize farming, you give farmers seeds, fertilizer, and everything else. So what will you give to somebody who wants to engage in snake rearing?
What will we give?
Yeah.
Like I said, Gashori, the law was passed in 2013. KWS, we are not doing it at Justina or Professor Wajakoya. No, there are regulations in place. Hao ndio wataenda na KWS will advise them as it is, mali watatoa hiyo nyoka. Because there's already a research process in place. Wako hapa Ngong Road. Ni a government, it's government owned, na support KWS in this process. So what we are saying, hatutapeana nyoka. Justina Wamae or Wajakoya won't go and give snakes. No, we will work with the experts. And Kenya haikosi our experts. We'll work with KWS. But the fact is, we have amplified the voice that this is an alternative income generating activity.
Una la kuongeza kabla tu?
Naona KWS wako na kazi mingi ahead of their government, ya fisi na ya nyoka. For us, we are safe again. We leave them in the zoo.
They were expecting, the law is there, the Wildlife Conservation Act 2013.
Those were just my remarks.
Yeah.
Naam, tuingie katika mada yetu ya mwisho katika mjadala huu wa leo ambayo inahusu kinyang'anyiro hiki ambapo kipo, namna siasa zinavyoendeshwa. Kwa mtazamo wako Bi Ruth, katika muda wa dakika 2, unapoangalia jinsi kampeni zinavyoendeshwa, jinsi uongozi unavyoendeshwa humo nchini Kenya, kama mgeni katika ulingo wa siasa na katika masuala hayo yote, ni kipi ambacho unaona kinastahili kubadilishwa katika namna tunavyojiendesha?
I would say that I have been a leader. One, I will not call myself a new politician in this field. I have been a leader from the time I was a young girl. And I almost actually got into the Nairobi gubernatorial in January 2021, a governor with David Mwaure. Lakini Kenyans and Nairobians know what happened. Hiyo maneno ilisimamishwa. So what I would bring in different is to ensure that we get rid of this PR. Tumedanganya wa Kenya for too long. People have been asking hauna experience, but if the cost of experience is what has happened over the years, I'd rather come in as the new option. Mtu le amebadilika, mtu ako trustworthy, mtu ako na nafasi ya kubadilisha maisha ya Wakenya, kushughulikia wanawake, kupa wanawake sauti, even the youth. Wanarika pale nje wametengeneza jobless corners, but tunasema tunahitaji experience. No, I refuse what the stereotypes are talking about. Ninasema sisi tunakuja kuleta mabadiliko. Amkeni wa Kenya, tunakuja kuleta mabadiliko na uongozi mpya katika hii nchi.
Ni baadhi ya mabadiliko kama yapi ambao unapendekeza Ruth? Kwa sababu unasema kuleta mabadiliko yepi? What should change?
Corruption. Francis, corruption is big on us. You know, we cannot be able to change agriculture without curbing corruption. We cannot deal with sports. Look at what happened to Ferdinand. The corruption imefanya hii maneno ifanyike. He's a champion. He's going to represent a country. Lakini kuna wale wanatangulia kabla yeye. The person who is supposed to be bringing glory back to us is the person who is last. Is given last priority. Kwa hivyo haya mabadiliko sisi ndiposa tunaegemea upande wa corruption, because it is a cancer in this country, and we need to get rid of it.
Let me give you some 60 more seconds. Haya mabadiliko unayozungumza, how will it affect health? How will it affect the young people who have no jobs? How will it affect infrastructure development na mambo kama hayo?
Tukipambana na corruption, tutakuwa na operational capital. Remember, we'll be able to create jobs for the youth. Kuna wale wamefanya degree, 2,000 of them probably after every year wana graduate. Hawana makazi. Wakienda kutafuta kazi, they're being asked for 3 years experience. It is not bought over a shelf. tunataka kupatia the graduates nafasi waweze tunapatia graduates nafasi kuweza kuingia kwa makazi with a minimal experience with a minimal experience, which means tunaweka mikakati ya kuweza kuwapatia nafasi kuingia immediately after graduation. There's a graduation program. Na watu kama wa informal sector tunamsha the industries that have been dead. During COVID, we got to learn that we can make masks we can make locally masks. Kwa nini bado basi tunazileta? To employ wanarika walipo hapa ndani waweze kutengeneza mask. You can imagine we're even importing toothpicks. Situpatie wanarika in the informal sector nafasi waweze kujijenga pia.
Justina, what should change about our way and mode of doing politics?
Let me say this about health. Ukiangalia as it is, if you have, for example, you're told to come for an MRI, to get an MRI scan or dialysis, ukiwa Turukana, you have to come to Nairobi for NHIF to give you authorization for that. Assuming you're very, very sick, so you have to come with someone. You travel from Turkana to Nairobi. Up until 2018, it was working. I don't know why it stopped. You come here to Nairobi, maybe upate watu ni wengi kwa NHIF office, so uende bado ulale, there's cost of even kuspend in Nairobi, and then you go back. What I'm thinking, the change we need in Roots Party, what we are pushing as Roots Party. Number one, NHIF zote in all localities and branches, can they authorize this thing? So that kama ni dialysis, kama ni MRI, we were told that machines were bought. Why should they come to Nairobi all the way from Turkana or Mandera for authorization in Nairobi? So that is the change we want. Number two, doctors are professionals. They should also have their own health service commission. They have been fighting for this. So as Roots Party, we are going to push for that. Wacha wajipange kama Judicial Service Commission, because health is very, very paramount in this country. Another thing which borders on devolution. Our idea as Roots Party is that we've seen that 15% is not possible because national government is not able to give county governments, and county governments are crying. When we say we are going to suspend the constitution, that comes into chapter 11 of devolution. What we want is for the counties, they are already organized in caucuses. Wajipange, they get their own revenue, wagawane according to their regions. They are only going to give national government ya roots 10%. Iyo, a doctor wa county atalipwa, suppliers who've been auctioned because they have not been paid watalipwa. Unaona, and service delivery ya county will be manageable. So that is the change we are pushing as Roots Party.
Na Bi Ruth, katika kauli yako ya kumaliza una muda wa dakika 2, ni kipi ambacho mtakifanya tofauti na utawala ambao upo sasa katika kauli yako ya kufunga?
Wakenya tunaleta transparency. Wakenya tunaleta uongozi mpya. Tunakuwa, we are the new broom. We are the people who are coming to clean up the corruption. We are people who are coming to stabilize the economy. We are concerned about our youth. We are concerned about the women plight, just as like the disabled, the people with disability. So give us the chance to take care of you. You are our bosses. It's paramount to know that you are our bosses. You are not the subject. So give us the vote, and we shall bring in the change that we have been talking about.
Kauli yako ya kufunga, Bi Justina.
And I called for mindset change when tulikuwa tunaanza hii debate. Kenyans, let us respect the media owners. They have organized this debate. And the purpose of this debate is to give you an opportunity to ask your leaders questions. And here we are. So don't see it like it's something that you're time wasting, ama mulisha amua. No. If you need a different Kenya, a transformed Kenya, this is the opportunity. Let me say this as Roots Party. We might come off as jokers, as not serious people, but one thing we are doing is to push your mind and to ask yourself, by the way, my tribe doesn't help me, but the challenges I'm facing as an individual is what I want my government to help me with. So we are coming in with fresh ideas. We are coming in with the idea that Kenya can do better. Kenya is beautiful. We have athletes who we are always trending that they are doing well. We have musicians who are doing well. But when it comes to leadership, why do we have low self-esteem? Why do we choose people? Why are we scared to go a different direction? So my call to Kenyans is that Roots is different. We are giving you a solution. We are explaining to you where we are going to get the money to run government projects, and we are ready to serve you. So be different. Don't feel like anyone owns you. Don't feel like you're doing someone a favor. And for the 44 million undecided, I hope I've convinced you. And the ones who are decided, I hope I've converted you to vote for Roots Party, because this is the government and the party for the future.
Thank you very much.
Asanteni sana. Mnaweza kupokezana mkono. Thank you. Na wanaposema wahenga, kilicho na mwanzo lazima kiwe na mwisho. Hii sasa ndiyo tamati ya mjadala wetu kati ya wagombea wenza wa kiti cha urais.
Indeed, our appreciation to candidates Justina, Wamae and Ruth Musheru, and to you, the audience here and out there watching on television here in Kenya and around the world. Thank you all. I'm Francis Gashuri of Citizen TV and Inoro TV.
Nami naitwa Zubeida Kananu Kome kutoka KTN News. Usiku mwema.
Thank you for staying with the deputy presidential debate. Debate 1 has just ended just moments after Justina Wamae of the Roots Party and Ruth Mutua of the Agano Party faced off there in debate 1. Debate 2 is kicking off in just a bit, but my panelists are still here with me. In fact, some of the leaders are already here, within the vicinity. We're waiting for Martha Karua, Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya Alliance, and Rigathi Gachagua, who is from Kenya Kwanza, who's just arriving for the debate 2, which will kick off in the next 1 hour. And I'll be crossing over to Ken Mijungu in just a bit, and Michelle Ngele was standing by for that conversation shortly. And my panelists are still with me. Professor Alfred Omenya, urban planning expert, is changing places with Professor Gituro. Nerima Wako, executive director, Siasa Place, is still here. Dr. Nancy Baraza, former deputy chief justice, is still with us here. Saskala Barakwe, public policy expert, is also with us. And Wanjiru Gikonyo, executive director, TISA, which is the Institute of Social Accountability. Just moments before this debate kicks in, the second debate, Wanjiru, who impressed you in the first debate and why?
Well, I have to give my kudos to Justina. First of all, I think both were impressive, and it's a landmark that we have two women being able to hold this debate. Yeah. So that means out of all the candidates, we've got a total of 3 women as deputy. That is the trend we need when we are talking about gender inclusion. In terms of the debate, I'd have to give it to Justina.
Yeah.
I felt she argued her points very convincingly. I think she gave a lot of good background information. I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
But they both did well. Both did well.
Asaska, who impressed you?
To be honest with you, I give it to the Roots Party for making cannabis a national conversation in this debate this evening. Kudos. And I also picked up that she covered their manifesto very well, cutting across all the 10 points. And the other thing I noted is that the Roots Party manifesto is an outward-looking manifesto.
Yeah.
Because you'll find that she really focused on exporting hyena parts and dog and snake meat and anti-venom and all this. And they're looking at China particularly. That I find it quite interesting because China is one of the highest consumers of these exports. And because of this, she's really hammered it down on legalization of marijuana.
Yeah.
And she made it clear to Kenyans that, hey, we're not just going to work in an empty space, We'll have laws and regulations guiding the farming of marijuana.
Yeah.
So I found it very interesting and captivating.
Dr. Baraza, were your expectations met? Are you convinced now? You're waiting to be convinced whether this is an alternative option.
I think before I answer that, Trevor, I want to commend the two candidates.
Yeah.
I think, as Wanjiru has said, I think our democracy has grown. It's growing, that we are having women stand before us and debate and offer themselves. I think our democracy is a demonstration that our democracy is maturing.
Yeah.
But to come to the issues, I think Justina did very well. She was on top of her manifesto. They are thinking outside the box. She gave us what is it?
The issues around their manifestos and why they
the issues and how they intend to realize those issues, the law, the regulations. I think she did very well.
Yeah.
except we got focused too much on marijuana.
Yeah.
Probably other issues were not as well articulated. As for Agano, Ruth performed well too, but she ended up reacting to Justina and forgot that they have their own manifesto. She didn't articulate their own manifesto very well.
All right.
Otherwise, I think it's a clap for our democracy.
All right, Dr. Baraz. And you can see right now this debate 2 is just about to kick off. It's starting off in the next 45 minutes or so. And one of the candidates there, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua from the Kenya Kwanza and UDA Brigade, is already here, ready to face off with Honorable Martha Karua. He's just come in first, and of course they're going to hold him for a bit for the second part of that debate, which is kicking off at exactly 8 p.m. all the way to 9:30. That will be moderated by James Smart and Sophia Wanuna. James Smart, who has been told there's no such thing as beard gang. Ni pesa hakuna. We'll cross over to James Smart and find out what's really going on. But right now, one of the candidates who's arriving for the second debate, that is Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, is heading to speak to Ken Mijungu and Michelle Ngele to find out how he's feeling this evening. Ken?
Trevor, thank you so much. And of course, the Kenya Kwanza Alliance candidate, running mate Rigathi Gachagua, is here, all decked up, looking really nice. Thank you so much for you. Quite early, you keep time. It's about 5 minutes past 7. How have you prepared for this debate?
Well, to start with, I'm a guy who keeps time. You know, I was a guy in uniform. I believe in military precision. You told me here to be 7, here at 7, I'm here at 7.
Okay.
I'm ready for the debate. I'm looking forward. I hope this debate is about the people of Kenya. I hope we are not degenerate into triviality and innuendos and rumors and unnecessary issues. I trust that the moderators will give us a chance to present to the people of Kenya our plan to turn around the economy, to change their lives, to put food on the table, to make sure that every Kenyan can pay their bills, they can take their children to school, to make sure that every Kenyan who goes to hospital cannot be detained there because of lack of money, and to restore the dignity of the Kenyan people.
Okay.
You know, Kenyans are in a state of helplessness. Kenyans feel very dejected. They lack hope. We need to give them a plan.
Okay.
And we have that plan. And given an opportunity tonight, we'll talk to the people of Kenya and tell them the plan that we have.
Very, very interesting. But as I let you go, because you need to take a little rest before you take to the podium, you are prepared for this debate. You have been going around campaigning for Kenyans. But how do you feel being here tonight? This is the day, you know, because obviously you're prepared for it.
I feel good because I'll have an opportunity to talk to many Kenyans who don't come to public rallies. There are many Kenyans who, because they are working, they are busy in business, some outside the country, they don't get time to attend public rallies where we have been pushing our agenda and explaining to the people of Kenya why they should give Dr. William Ruto and I a chance to change their lives, to restore their dignity, to give them hope, to inspire them. Right. And those are the Kenyans I want to talk tonight. And I trust and pray that the moderators will not be trivial. They'll give me an opportunity to talk to the people of Kenya about our plan and convince them that we have the best plan for them, and that is why they should come out on the 9th of August and vote for Dr. Ruto and I.
All right, Rigathi Gachagua, running mate for the Kenya Kwanza, all the best as he walks in to now take his position. And Trevor, very interesting. He's a man who keeps time, and he says he's ready for the debate, and I know we are also ready. Over to you, Trevor.
Thanks, Ken. We're absolutely ready for debate 2. This is just moments after debate 1 has just finished. Justina Wamae of the Roots Party and Ruth Mutua were facing off. Now debate 2 is kicking off in the next 45 minutes or so. That's at 8 p.m. They're going all the way to 9:30, and the first candidate has already arrived. That's Honorable Rigathi Gachagua. Nerima, coming to you now, just post the first debate. Who impressed you and why?
Well, I would have to say that as well. I agree. I believe it was Justina Wamae. You could clearly see in the way she articulated herself that politics is something that she is well versed and used to. She was able to use very personal stories. She identified with the people, the audience. A lot of times with her responses, you could hear the audience chiming in and laughing. But also the fact that she had tried to stand in Mavoko and also applied for a permanent secretary position, it shows you that even in her articulation of responses, she could see how things work within the counties.
Okay.
And
Nerima, I'm going to ask you to hold that thought. Now the interruption comes to you for the first time. At least that's one vote on your side. Let's cross over to Busara Naman, who's standing by with Justina Wamae of the Roots Party, post the first debate, and let's find out how she's feeling. Busara?
Naam, mtazamaji, bila shaka duru ya kwanza ama awamu ya kwanza mdahalo imetamatika na tayari tunajitayarisha kwa awamu ya pili. Lakini kabla hatujajitosa katika awamu ya pili, ni lazima tuweze kujua jinsi mambo yalivyokwenda katika awamu ya kwanza. Na hapa nipo na mgombea mwenza ambaye ni Justina Wamae, na pengine tu ningependa utueleze, je, unahisi vipi baada huo mdahalo? Na je, unahisi kwamba umeweza kuwashawishi wa Kenya?
Asante sana Busara kwa hilo swali. Nikiingia hapa nilisema kazi yangu itakuwa kudestigmatize Roots Party manifesto na believe nimefanya hivyo. But wacha niseme hivi, Kenya imebadilika, Wakenya wanataka leaders who understand them. Na ndio maana ilibidi nifanye a lot of research na ni present well ndio Wakenya watuelewe. Another thing, Mkenya wa leo si ule wa kitambo. Nilipokuwa mdogo nilikuwa naona wanasema women in politics are not married. So the men in this country wako progressive, watasupport ideas, hata women empowerment ideas, and I need to thank personally my husband, my spouse, Bwana Alex, tuko naye huku kwa kunipatia hii opportunity ya ku choose and do what I love, which is public service and leadership. Nimefurahi sana.
Naam, asante sana kwa kuja, asante kwa kuitikia mwito. Na mtazamaji, kufikia hapo na ningependa kumpisha mwenzangu Nimrod Tabu naye atueleze upande wake kuko vipi. Karibia kaka.
Naam, asante sana Busara. Bila shaka nafikiri mgombea mwenza ameeleza vizuri. Ninaye mgombea mwenza pia mwingine alikuwa hapo katika jukwaa, Bi Ruth Mutua. Nafikiri pengine hisia za kwanza tu ulipowasili na mpaka sasa. Je, unasikia fursa hii umeitumia vizuri kuzungumza na wananchi? Manake kuna wengine ambao pengine walikuwa hawaja kuona kwa muda mrefu, kuchukua majukwaa kama haya na kuzungumzia manifesto.
Hii nafasi nimeifurahia, and I thank the Media Council for the opportunity that you've given unto us. We are not really competing against each other. Tumekubaliana na Justina, tumekuja kuleta the manifesto. What is this government coming to do? I have loved the interview. It was interactive, but not si ya kuleta mtu chini, ya kumuonesha this one is better than the other. Na pia ningeweza kufurahi kushukuru familia yangu. Pia mimi bwana na watoto wamenishikilia for even this first time of a race. Nasema ni asanti.
Bila shaka tunatumai kwamba umeweka msingi wa yale ambao mnataka kufanya hata siku za usoni, lakini asante sana kwa muda wako. Bila shaka tukiwa na migaragazano kama hii tutakuwa tunatafutana na nyinyi. Haya basi, ndio kama ulivyosikia mtazamaji, wagombea wenza wote wakifurahia fursa hii kuweza kuzungumza na wananchi na kuuza sera zao kwa wale ambao walikuwa bado hawajakuweza kuwafahamu ama kuwaelewa zaidi. Lakini kwa sasa hivi tunakwenda kwake Trevor Ombija, bado akili na wachanganuzi, kuzungumzia tu awamu ya kwanza na pia matamanio na yale yanayotarajiwa katika mdahalo wa pili.
Asante sana Nimrod na Busara there, but let me come back to you. You're finishing your thoughts on why Justina is the one who impressed you.
Yes. So basically she said it herself just now, where she said she's passionate about public service. We saw that. She was able to bring it out. But also her opening statement, where she talked about, Kenyans, open your mind. So Roots Party is definitely different. We saw the difference. And she also closed it with Kenyans, open your mind. Okay. And I think that she has managed to do what she came to do. People are asking questions on, can industrial hemp make a difference to our economy? She has left Kenyans actually thinking about it rather than completely negating it. And so I think she has won this debate today.
All right. Prof, were your expectations met, and who impressed you this evening?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Trevor. I think my expectations have learned to make them very, very low, so they were met. There's no doubt about that. I think I really liked Justina and Ruth's party. Yeah, because I like them not necessarily because of the issues they responded to, but as the other panelists have actually highlighted, as our democracy expands, we will be having different types of parties, pushing for different types of issues. And I think for the first time we are seeing a fringe party, being on the national agenda with a clear issue.
Yeah.
And that issue is actually legalization of industrial hemp. And yes, whatever the case, whether we discussed hemp for too long or whatever it is, I think Kenyans learned a lot about that one single issue that Ruth's party and Justina brought on board. When it came to Ruth, I thought that their party must also be having an issue that they wanted Kenyan to listen to, but it seemed like her issue was to oppose industrial hemp and to oppose snake rearing and to oppose export of hyenas to China. So Agano party actually wasted our time and actually did not even use the platform for anything. Yes, but of course, I mean, what I'd hope to hear really was whether there was anything beyond what we're hearing, the hemp and stuff like that. And I think Justina either tactically or otherwise chose not to discuss any of those things. Whether it's devolution, whether it's other issues around agriculture, whether it is youth employment, and all that. But on their single agenda of hemp, it was clearly put on the table. And my own suggestion to them is that they should not really campaign about anything else. The other things they can leave for Azimio and Kenya Kwanza. Let them focus on hemp and educate us accordingly.
Okay. Dr. Baraza, on the issue of the rule of law, Justina says judiciary is the one that is to blame. Because in her own words, money will be used to sanitize whoever is accused of any matter. Do you agree with those statements? That it's the judiciary that is to blame?
Before I go to the judiciary, I want to support my colleague there about Justina and her hemp. Actually, come to think of it, I use an oil called Indian hemp for my head. So if that hemp is the marijuana, then maybe she should focus there. I use Indian hemp on my head. The judiciary and Justina, I think, to a large extent, I think we need to pull up our socks in the judiciary. People, whether rightly or wrongly, they think the judiciary is the weakest link in our fight against corruption. The delays in cases, the drama that goes on around cases, especially cases on corruption. I think we need to, the institution needs to pull up its socks so that we can very, very ably deal with the issue of corruption.
Can the solution be the death penalty and death by hanging? Because the last time this happened, and Gashuri brought it out very well, was in 1987. She says that will instill fear if it is brought back.
We have the death penalty. It is there. It's not like it has been outlawed. It is there. And it is for capital offenses. I don't think corruption is a capital offense. So unless now we revisit it, but it is there. And I don't think it instills fear even in the murderers and the people who commit capital offenses. So I don't know. I think probably she needs to have given us more alternatives on how we can deal with corruption.
But we've not seen the death penalty being used since 1987.
It is not used. I think we develop cold feet when it comes to real hanging of people. So we have just put them there in committee. They are there, and nobody hangs them.
Okay.
So and it's true. We hanged last, I think, in
1987.
87. Yeah.
All right. Let me bring in Wanjiru on this. Wanjiru, on the issue of judiciary, Justina says it's the judiciary that has failed Chapter 6 of the Constitution. Do you agree?
Well, what I do agree is that we have a problem of corruption. And what I like about these two parties, unfortunately, too much time was spent on the Bangi issue and not enough on the other issues. But if you look at the manifestos, there is the hanging provision in the Roots Party, and then the Agano Party really, actually their centerpiece is fighting corruption. And all their recommendations are kind of built around that. And what I like about that is they are forcing, they may be fringe parties, but they are putting an issue that Kenyans, that bedevils our society, but Kenyans also feel about, at the center stage. Because if you look at the larger parties, the Azimio party, of course, has, you know, a human rights crusader and a governance crusader for the deputy.
Yeah.
But if you look at the manifesto proper, the proposals they have on fighting corruption have not been brought out. They are not quantified. They look like the platitudes that litter all our other proposals, copy-paste, let us do this. So we are not getting action. If you look at the UDA manifesto, actually they're almost telling us, let's rethink this corruption thing, it's not that big a deal. They also have some good proposals to strengthen the redress institutions, but they're leaving out the leadership and integrity. So we need the fringe parties, and I hope they'll stay the course to keep this center stage. Is it the judiciary? Well, the judiciary is definitely a weak link. In fact, Transparency International did a study on the judiciary and found of all the institutions, it's possibly one where corruption is most rampant. But by the same token, part of the paradoxes of our governance, the judiciary has been the bulwark or the, you know, the protector of the Constitution under this dispensation against an administration that was really violating the Constitution. Yeah. So I wouldn't put it all on the judiciary, because we've got, you know, how do cases start? Cases start in the administrative process, and there are administrative sanctions. We have a Commission on Administration of Justice. Yeah. So a lot of the offenses that we have can be dealt with administratively, but the public service doesn't work. From the people they hire, from the people who sit on the public service, from the people who get into public offices. So the moment you have the wrong people sitting in these offices, you begin to dilute the process. When these violations happen, they'll get investigated by the Auditor General, and the Controller of Budget can stop finances in some cases. Once these reports come to Parliament, what happens? And we've seen what happens with corruption cases, including the COVID, including the NYS reports. We've seen Parliament expunging the names of some of the politically connected individuals, so that you get a report with a bunch of facts, leaving out the perpetrators and those most responsible. Okay. We've seen the president promise to release beneficial ownership information. This is who are the companies that are taking part in government procurement, so that we can hold those people to account. And this hasn't happened. Okay. So we can't put it all on the judiciary. We have a very robust legal and administrative institutional framework, but the culture, what we want to hear is, what's the culture that we, you know, how do we change the culture? How do we enforce the laws that are there?
And Asaska, what are your thoughts on this when the candidate is blaming the judiciary and saying that the death penalty will instill some sort of fear?
I'll agree with what Daktari and Wanjiru has mentioned, but I also don't want to 100% blame the judiciary, because our constitution is progressive, and the judiciary, the judicial systems are quite independent. So I think we are progressing, however slow, into having perfect judicial systems in place that deliver justice and fairness. So I won't blame it 100%.
Okay.
No.
So, Prof, what are your thoughts on this? Is it the judiciary? Is that the weakest link when it comes to fighting graft?
Actually, that's nonsense. We know exactly the problem with the corruption in this country. Corruption in this country is a leadership issue. And it goes to what fellow panelists are saying there, that we do have enough administrative instruments to deal with this. If a president of the country is telling us that people are stealing in his government, whose responsibility is it to stop those people from stealing? It is not the judiciary. It is the president. And the president actually has adequate room in law to be able to replace people who are thieves and even who've been suspected of theft. I think if you look at the judiciary, if you look at Article 6 of the Constitution, I think that it sets a leadership standard. It sets a standard for public leaders. It is not just there actually for leaders who fail the criminal test. If I'm a famous thief, you don't need to prove that Romania is a thief so as not to put me to block me from getting into public office.
Yeah.
Corruption in this country will only end if we have leaders who are not corrupt. We can create new laws. We can create new institutions to fight corruption. We can threaten to hang people, but and not just in the country. We know that corruption in private sector is normally when the CEO is corrupt or condones the corruption. Corruption in counties is when those governors are actually corrupt or condone corruption. Counties that have not wanted, that have actually wanted to serve the public properly and ensure that public resources are used properly, they are being done, and it's not because of the judiciary.
Yeah.
The president, yes, and we've been told the president has promised us over and over again to tell us who are these beneficial owners of companies, who are running the SGR, who are in the expressway, and so on.
Yeah.
I'm happy to say on national TV that, as far as I'm concerned, the president himself has failed that test to lead from the front. In fact, I actually think that the president and his deputy condone corruption. And that's why this animal will continue. As long as we keep electing leaders who condone corruption, we can cry whatever we want. We can point fingers. We can create 10 casas, but corruption will actually continue.
Yeah.
For me, it actually starts and ends with leadership.
Okay, Nerima, what are your thoughts on that?
I think just to add on what has already been mentioned, we need to talk about asset recovery.
Yeah.
The Kroll report did, mention, especially during Moi's regime, a lot of resources, ill-gotten wealth, was transferred to Swiss accounts. So in 2018, when the former President Alain Berset visited Kenya, he signed an agreement with President Kenyatta called FRAC, the Framework for the Return of Assets from Corruption and Crime in Kenya. Where did that go? What has happened with that? I think that there are frameworks in place in our country to make sure or to support our resources to come back in. Because as much as we're talking about corruption within, which is current, there's corruption from previous decades of mismanagement and terrible leadership and bad governance that we also need to talk about, that is overseas. And bringing these resources back, I think it's important for our candidates to highlight how they plan to do that, not just focusing on the judiciary. So I do agree that it has everything and a lot to do with leadership in place.
Yeah, and Dr. Baraza, one of the things that she brought out is closely related to what Professor is saying. Justina said that it's Kenyans themselves who are to blame for bad leadership. Do you agree with that statement?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We know corruption is rampant. We know what it is doing to us. But we are ready to vote in corrupt leaders. We don't condemn corruption. We are ready. Only we are the ones who vote in these fellows. And so I think to that extent she's right. And on the issue of the judiciary, I think, let me go back to it. It's just one of the many institutions. And there are instances of corruption in that institution, but that doesn't mean that the entire judiciary is to blame for corruption. I think all our institutions, the entire leadership of this country is responsible for corruption.
Okay.
And so I think to that extent, she's quite right. And Kenyans ourselves determine the kind of leadership that we want. And so if we elect corrupt people, we put them in place, and they come and play musical chairs on us. We are promised there is going to be a lifestyle audit. We are all ears out waiting for the lifestyle audit, and that is the surest way of finding out how we are making our money and who is making this money. And then it stops. We don't hear about it anymore, and we continue.
Okay.
And right now, I think our biggest problem is celebration of money. We don't care where money has come from. Our little boys and girls are driving the most expensive vehicles in this country. Our economy is a small economy. Where are we getting this money from? We don't ask those questions. We are celebrating corruption.
Okay. Wanjiru, is it the electorate that is to blame for all the mess that we are in?
No, I respectfully disagree.
Yeah.
I think it is sometimes we don't understand why some of these political decisions are made. When you look at, some of the candidates, like let's say Mike Sonko, he's been impeached in one, ran Nairobi to the ground, yet there's an indication that he may get acceptance in Mombasa had the court allowed him to do so. But I think those might be outliers and also might be ignoring the, many factors. So many factors go into the voting decision, including the electoral process. If we had an electoral process in 2013 that had to be challenged up to the Supreme Court because there were doubts on the way it was managed, and if again in 2017 I went, voted, Kenyans went, voted, and the presidential result had to be annulled and overturned because the process was manipulated, with a weak electoral system, you actually impede the ability of the confidence of Kenyans in the electoral and the leadership election process, and the ability to remove bad leaders. Linked to the electoral process is the party nomination process, where you have maybe two bad candidates or two candidates implicated of corruption. They may be good in other ways, maybe then Kenyans don't really have a choice. The other thing is, like I said earlier, our civic education is actually a duty of government if you look at the law, but it hasn't been taking place. And you have to ask yourself, why did the Jubilee administration frustrate the civic education and civil engagement pillar of engagement? Because they did. They were deregistering institutions. They were refusing to allow development funders to fund civic education and voter education. So if you do not build up a critical consciousness among the citizens, what do you expect? They are going to fall privy to the lies and propaganda that the politicians peddle out. Last thing is, socially, the incentives work for corruption. Those who have fought corruption pay a very bitter price. Whether it's John Githongo now paying 10 million for exposing the Anglo leasing, whether it was Jacinta Mwatela, who was hounded out of Central Bank for refusing corruption, whether it's David Munyakei, who exposed Goldenberg, and he died a pauper's death. So the social incentives favor corruption because the political elite are benefiting. So blaming the citizen is victim blaming. Maybe last I can say is professionals. Look at what happened in Kenyatta University when a professional stood up and said no. So we also need professionals of courage and integrity to stop being bullied when they're given the wrong instructions.
Asaska, is it the people who are to blame for this?
Trevor, first of all, before I answer your question, I think we would like to appreciate the fact that Kenya's democratic space has really grown over time. And one, it's because look at the fringe parties, the Roots Party and the Agano Party. They have a huge space right now to explain to Kenyans what they really stand for and what they will bring to the table for Kenyans. And yes, you're asking me, is the corruption, are we to blame the electorate?
Asaska, now I think you get one interruption also. It's fair play for everyone. We're going to ensure everybody's interrupted at least once. You can see now on your screens that the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance deputy presidential candidate, Honorable Martha Karua, is now here, ready for the debate, which is starting in the next 30 minutes from now. It's going to take 1.5 hours, where they're going to outline the reasons why they're running for office and why they should be elected. Right after that, what is going to happen is they're going to take a ballot session. In that ballot session, whoever picks the first number is the one who will make the opening remarks first. I think she's accompanied by her family there. So once that happens, the second person is the one who will also make the closing remark second. That's Honorable Martha Karua is coming in for the debate that's going to take place in just a short while there, but 1.5 hours of it, where Kenyans, you can send in your questions as well on 22843, and we'll cross over to them and find out whether she's ready for the debate that is about to kick off in the next half an hour. And Ken Mijungu is now standing right there with Michelle Ngele. Ken?
Deputy presidential running mate under the Azimio One Kenya coalition just arrived 25 minutes to the debate. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. And you can see I'm surrounded by my grandchildren.
Yeah, yes. You want to say something? You want to say something?
Hi, people.
Are you ready for this debate?
Very. Yes.
All right. Say something.
Hi.
Do you wish her well?
Yes. No,
All right.
Please vote for Azimio.
All right. That is Martha Karua. She is the second candidate to arrive for this debate, setting the stage for the debate. Among many others, Kenyans expecting a heated debate, where amongst center stage will be how these candidates will implement their manifestos. Trevor.
Thank you, Michelle and Ken Mijungu there, speaking to the deputy presidential candidate for the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance. Honorable Martha Karua just walked into the podium. The debate kicks off in the next half an hour from now. They'll first go into the balloting session where they pick their numbers. That will determine who will make the opening remarks and who will be the first one to make closing remarks as well. But as Aska, we are talking about now, we have to switch gears. As you finish your talks on that, let's now talk about the one that's coming, the debate that's coming. What are your expectations for this particular debate between Honorable Rigathi Gachagua and Honorable Martha Karua?
Yeah. First, before we jump into that, can I finish on the corruption?
Yes.
Thank you, Trevor. So in regards to corruption, I think one thing that I want to bring it out is an overall lack of commitment to fight corruption.
Yeah.
And it begins from our household level all the way to the top leadership. I think it's time for us to be serious about corruption, for us to face corruption head on, because I think we're losing a lot of money to corruption and it needs to go to better use.
Okay.
And the other issue is, are we blaming the 22 million voters? No. No, yes. In one way, yes. We vote to people we know, most likely experienced politicians. As much as we have the fringe candidates, we feel like we go with who is famous and who we know based on our tribal and ethnic lines.
Yeah.
So yeah, changing gears here.
Okay.
What I expect on the second time of the debate is on both Kenya Kwanza manifesto and the Azimio manifesto, they really have some impressive commitments, and one of it is enhancing devolution.
Yeah.
I want to see how well they're going to articulate the issue of devolution, particularly increasing the shareable county revenue. And the other thing is both parties are huge on social protection as a development policy. And one good example is the 600 Kenya shillings cash transfers to the most vulnerable community members.
6,000.
6,000, yeah. And my question is, as much as this makes an economic sense, is it affordable?
Yeah.
Where is the physical sustainability of this initiative? We all know that social protection plays a big role, and it will definitely bring about equity and inclusive economic value to the beneficiaries.
Yeah.
But as much as there's no clear cut on the criteria and how many people. I know we have roadside declaration, there's about 2 million people, but I'd like to hear from Ms. Karua on how well they're going to execute this.
Okay. Professor Menya, what clarifications are you seeking from debate 2, which is about to begin between Rigathi Gachagua and Honorable Martha Karua?
Yeah, thank you. I think we are really looking forward to this debate, and one of the major issues we have looked at the manifestos of the two parties. One is called a plan, the other one is called a manifesto for Azimio and for Kenya Kwanza. And the question really that I'll be interested in those candidates are answering is, what problem are they trying to solve?
Yeah.
What is ailing Kenya? I think both of those parties have totally ignored what is ailing Kenya, and they're not talking about it. Of course, yes, we're talking corruption. That is costing the country almost 700 billion. That is more than 1.5 times what we send to the counties. We are talking about a country on the verge of bankruptcy, paying 70% of our GDP, 1.3 trillion in debt. Is that debt sustainable? And are they giving us specifics? We are talking about a country where the price of unga, fortunately, was reduced, but of course, unfortunately, nobody can access it yet. And what Kenyans may not understand is that nearly half the country, 20 million people, are within that poverty bracket. People earning 200 shillings a day. That's the price of unga. There are 20 million Kenyans who cannot put food on the table. I need to hear from them. what went wrong with Uhuru Kenyatta's economic policies
Yeah.
and what they'll do differently. Of course, Wajakoya has told us they'll rear snakes. We need to hear from Azimio and Kenya Kwanza what they will actually do differently.
Okay.
I need specifics. I need people who will be talking about Kenyans. Who are these Kenyans? Where are they? How many are they? If you're going to create jobs, where? How many jobs?
Yeah.
How will that solve the job problem? We are talking about a country where you're looking at over 40 million, both poor and rich, who cannot actually be able to access basic health.
Yeah.
These are some of the issues that we'll be talking about. But one of the things that cannot run away from is corruption. We need to actually have clear plans on the table. Because honestly, corruption, in fact, if you're looking at our expenditure currently as a country, the biggest expenditure is debt. That's at 70%, 1.3 trillion.
Yeah.
The second one is civil servants pay at around 800, 900 billion. The third one is corruption at between 600 to 700 billion. The money we are giving the counties actually comes a distant fourth or fifth. So basically what we are saying is that, look here, as long as we'll continue being corrupt, as long as government has no clear, these future governments have no clear plan to nib corruption at the bud, then these guys should just pack and go home. We chop up the country and share the loot and maybe immigrate to other great places like Uganda.
All right, Nerima, what are you looking forward to?
For me, for this one, I'm going to be biased and look at what they are giving or what they're offering young people.
Yeah.
As much as it's going to heavily rely on opportunities, I think the questions I will be looking for answers to are specific to the Aga Khan University report of 2016, which people really like to quote. And I read that 50% believe it doesn't matter how one makes money, but we forget that another 50% care how you make money. How are you going to answer that? And when you read on, 47% admire those who make money. They don't care how. But remember, there's another 53% who care how you make money. How are you going to speak to those youth? And then there's 30% who believe that corruption is profitable. 70% do not believe that corruption is profitable. So what are some of the responses they're going to give to that 70%?
Yeah.
And then finally, the fact that 73% are afraid to stand up for what is right. Why is that number so high? It shouldn't be that high. That means only 27% of young people in this country believe in standing up for what is right.
Yeah.
How are they going to make the environment conducive for young people to support the fight against corruption? But I think as well, another thing that concerns me is not even just how we're going to have the resources or things like that. It's the participation of young people.
Yeah.
Because in 2016, that same report said that 90% of young people are interested in engaging in politics.
Yeah.
The data from IEBC clearly shows us that only 39% are interested in participating in this election. So whoever wins in this election has to deal with a population of young people that have decided to clock out.
Yeah.
They don't believe in your leadership already, and they chose not to participate by even registering. How are you going to manage that population? And how are you going to offer solutions to a population that didn't even believe in lining up to vote for you?
Yeah.
And how are you going to do it in a very difficult economy? And so integrity will be key, because we'll have to manage the amount of resources that we have.
Yeah.
And youth will have to see where their taxes are going. Taxes are high. We are all paying them indirectly. And a number of youth in that 2016 report do not believe in paying their taxes. Guess what? That number has increased as well. So how would you convince the youth that their taxes is being used for the betterment of this country, and they're able to see the results of them paying those high taxes?
Okay. Dr. Baraza, are you expecting anything different before I come to you, Asaska? Are you expecting anything different for debate 2, which is about to kick off?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Very, very concrete strategies
Yeah.
on how they are going to deal with these issues that touch very directly on Kenyans. They are talking about socio-economic programs to alleviate the immediate problems of the majority of Kenyans.
Yeah.
The women, they are, I think Azimio Moja is talking about women and children, the vulnerable ones.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with Wanjiru. This 6,000
Yeah.
into the pocket, you know, I hope it's not just a promise. Kenyans are hurting, Kenyans are hungry. I think I need to understand that, how that money is going to be sourced and when, because Kenyans are waiting. Issue of devolution, I want to hear concrete steps towards strengthening of devolution. Women, of course, I want to hear about what it is they are going to do with women.
Okay.
And yeah.
All right. Saska, you wanted to jump in? on the
Yes,
issue of
yes.
youth? Yeah.
Trevor, I wanted to let you know that I feel very privileged sitting in this panel tonight because I'm a minority, I'm a woman, I'm Rendile from Marsabit, and I like that Azimio Manifesto have mentioned about peace and security. And I know as an individual, as a resident of one of the northern frontier counties, Article 238 of our constitution does guarantee peace and security for every Kenyan. And I feel like as a northerner, we've been left out. Particularly, most of you know about the conflict in Marsabit. People are being killed every single day. Unfortunately, it does not make it to news. And what I'm expecting today is to see what Ms. Karua and Mr. Gachagua have for the northern frontier counties.
Okay.
And one, on peace and security. Number two, on equal access to education and health. And more so security, because we know peace and security are the main drivers of our economic development. And that's why we are so behind.
Yeah.
I'm really keen, quite biased, if you may say so, but I want to see what they have for the northern frontier counties.
Okay. Wanjiru, one other thing that we have to touch on before we cross over to the debate is the affirmative action. Yeah, the Kenya Kwanza manifesto talks about giving 50% of the positions to women. Same as Azimio also talks about empowering the women in their manifesto as well. But is this all about positions? And how come we've consistently failed on the 2/3 gender rule?
Right. I think the failure of the 2/3 gender is similar to, also has fallen to the, the lack of implementation of the promise. But there's also the issue of patriarchy, which means it is more difficult for women to access capital for their businesses. It is more difficult for women in politics. And so that is why the affirmative action comes in, to level the engagement ground.
Yeah.
And we'd like to see, of course, we've already seen today that 3 of the parties have already begun to implement the affirmative action principle by ensuring that the candidate for DP is a woman.
Yeah.
And so we need to look at their proposals, but also the actions of the party as they go on, because we don't want any more false, empty promises, so to speak. And of course, when women get in there, they need to ensure they push for that gender principle. And then on the issue, the expectations, really building upon what the panelists have said, at the minimum, we are part of the Okoa Uchumi campaign, which has been looking at the issue of public debt that has been driven by budgeted corruption. So at the minimum, we are looking at what are the concrete strategies for economic recovery, what are the concrete strategies for economic transformation, so that we can create jobs and so that we can have a balanced budget and we can generate enough money to implement the projects that we need and a good life for all Kenyans.
Yeah.
That's the minimum. And I believe that the parties have crafted their proposals, so we'll be hearing that. I think the other thing that is maybe the game changer, as far as I'm concerned, as the Institute for Social Accountability, we've been investigating this issue of the culture. What has happened to our social accountability culture?
Yeah.
And it, at the center of this is we need to be very intentional about changing the way citizens engage with their public leaders, to move away from the dependency approach, to move away from the patrimonial approach to one of empowered citizens exercising their agency, being patriotic, responsible citizens, but having voice and having the space to engage. So I'm very keen to hear what's the role of the citizens? What's the empowering role of the citizens? Linked to that, what are the strategies to transform the public sector? Because corruption doesn't just happen, outside of a framework. There are public servants who are recruited who approve these schemes across the way. Like I said, we've seen an amazing example just this last week when the dean of Kenyatta University refused to hand over land to the cabinet president. Because it was unprocedural. And, that shows a lot of courage. So and then also maybe borrowing from Nerima, who looked at the study from a positive point of view. When we go back to the Kibaki regime, much as the Kibaki regime didn't do well in fighting corruption, they did have the prime minister's, under the prime minister's office, the public sector transformation unit. And that unit is the one that transformed the way we get our IDs issued, our passports renewed. And in a space of just 3 months, we went from queuing and, people having to bribe to being able to walk in and just get things done for you. That was done by Kenyans in real time. So the public sector can be reformed, and we want to hear more of those. Then lastly, historical issues. There are land issues that are still pressing. There's a Truth and Justice Reconciliation report. Those issues are still pending, and I believe a lot of the problems we have at present is the failure to address those issues.
All right, a lot to be packed within 1.5 hours. But Dr. Baraza, you brought up the issue of women and the role they play. How come we've consistently not been able to implement the 2/3 gender rule?
Patriarchy. I think she has nailed it. Patriarchy. Parliament has on several occasions failed to pass the bill on the legislative framework for realization of the not more than 2/3 gender rule. So there has been a lack of political will to push that agenda. But basically, it's patriarchy.
Does the solution lie in appointments? Because the Kenya Kwanza manifesto says they'll give 50% of all appointive positions to women. Is that a solution?
I think it would be, but it would be better if it is within a framework. Because it can be done today and the following time it is not there. That's why we need a legislative framework for it. But that would be a good beginning if they give women those numbers. But still, we'll need the legal framework to sustain it.
Professor Menya, what are your thoughts? Is it just patriarchy? Is that where the problem lies? Is that why we've been unable to get through the 2/3 gender rule?
I think, again, it's a leadership issue still. And I agree 100% with Dr. Baraz on this one, that the leadership that we have been given, looking at this thing as tokenism. I think it is quite possible to implement this within the existing frameworks we have if parties actually put mechanisms within the party themselves. I mean, one obvious example would be to use party lists. And within the party list, you ensure that, the different genders are represented accordingly, so that if a particular gender quota is down, then of course you go for the other gender. Yes, but of course we know that they are not interested in doing this. The day they would be, it would actually reflect, is very, very easy to do. We have very many competent Kenyan women. And let me say on air, without any fear of contradiction, that in the architecture department at University of Nairobi, where I was, we are almost reaching gender parity. 50-50 on the students. But it's because we believed there was nothing wrong with a Kenyan girl in terms of studying architecture, and we went out to schools and talked to them, and they came not on affirmative action. They came on competence. We have enough competent Kenyan women. In fact, I think the problem is the other way around. that we have so many incompetent men occupying positions and you can't figure out why. Yes, so I think it is political will. And on this one, I believe that, in fact, the political parties and government must be forced using legal frameworks to actually realize gender parity as was envisaged in the Constitution.
Yeah, but Nerima, what are your thoughts on this? Because there's someone who complains and says that the critics say that even those same appointments that we're talking about tend to be very skewed, and it's more about a political reward for political loyalists rather than the people who are competent.
There's a sense of that, but also this time it's a little bit different because party lists have been rejected. The parties had tried to put in individuals as favors, people who had stood for elective seats and lost them in the primaries, for instance. And, you know, IBC was very, very clear in ORPP. And so when they submitted them, they were rejected, and they've been given a timeline within a week, which is ending this week, to submit a new list. So we have seen the challenges in the space, and the right institutions are working toward fixing those challenges. But I also feel that the public doesn't quite understand the role of women representatives.
Nerima, I have to interrupt you one more time because we're crossing over to the balloting session now. This is an important session. Let's see what's going on there with Nimrod Tabu and was taking us through that.
Haya, basi. Naam, asante sana Trevor. Bila shaka kama tulivyofahamu katika awamu ya kwanza, Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua yuko hapa, Mheshimiwa Bi Martha Karua vile vile, wote wamefika hapa, ugombea mwenza kutoka Kenya Kwanza na vile vile Azimio. Tutafanya kama tulivyofanya desturi ya kwanza, nitawaruhusu mmoja achukue kijikaratasi na mwingine. Asante sana. Halafu tuwaonyeshe watazamaji, yule atakayekuwa kwanza basi atakuwa ni wa kwanza kuingia katika jukwaa na kuweza kujitambulisha na kupata fursa ya kujibu swali la kwanza. Asanteni sana na natakia kila laheri katika mdahalo wa leo. Asante mtazamaji na kurudisha kwake Trevor. Thank you so much.
Point, because the balloting then means whoever picked the first number is the one who will make first opening remarks and will be the first to make closing remarks as well. So that will be Honorable Rigathi Gachagua of the Kenya Kwanza team who will make the first opening remarks and also the closing remarks. Yes, Nerima, we're coming to you before we cross over to the debate which is about to begin in the next 3 minutes.
Yes, I think that one way to debunk a lot of these positions is understanding the roles of them. And for women representative, I feel a lot of people complain about that position because they don't necessarily understand the role of women representative. Because a lot of people come to me and say, how much does she get? What does she even do there? Is it even necessary? I wish we would ask the same questions about our members of parliament across the board and ask them evenly so that we have the right people representing us and understanding how important it is to have people who qualify to represent us.
Yeah, but as a young person, Nerima, what inspires the youth to vote? Because there are those who claim now, just like Justina just said, that it's the people who are electing the wrong leaders. What inspires them to vote?
They have to be able to recognize an individual who identifies with them and their issues. I see a lot of youth who follow people that they feel are speaking sense to them.
All right. I have to take a quick break now. When we come back, it's time for debate number 2 between Honorable Rigathi Gachagua and Honorable Martha Karua. That will be moderated by Sophia Wanuna and James Smart. Stay with Deputy Presidential Debates.
Karibu Kam. By offering market linkages, networking opportunities, and technical assistance, Kenya Association of Manufacturers assists its members to grow and scale up their businesses. Join us and let us work together to grow the manufacturing sector. Becoming a CAM member is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Kenya Association of Manufacturers, driving global competitiveness.
When we hate, demonize, and divide, we become them and us. But when we unite in solidarity, compassion and respect, our actions become more powerful. change the world.
I think the most important quality of a leader is wisdom, so that the decisions that are being made now, he knows how, it's like a chess player who sees 10 moves ahead.
Unajua wakati ambapo mlipa ushuru analipa ushuru wake, anataka aone angalau kazi ya pesa yake ambayo anailipia. Hii pesa tunaamini kwa zinaishia kwa mifuko za watu binafsi.
I think it's important that wealth is declared frequently, and if people have found ways to accumulate wealth very quickly, absolutely good for them, as long as, of course, that is done honestly and ethically.
We need leaders who are well educated to understand the challenges that we face in the modern world.
Kwa mfano, mtu mwenye amesomea ukandarasi wa barabara, mkiwa na kiongozi ambaye amesomea hiyo taaluma, una uhakika kwamba barabara za eneo lako zitakuwa zina usimamizi mzuri.
What is a secondary school in Kenya? It ranges from 106 high-cost national schools educating 3% of the learners, where you find ultra-modern libraries and laboratories, the most experienced principals and teachers, and the best teacher-student ratios. To 7,019, some barely established, understaffed, lacking basic facilities, sub-county schools, educating over 60% of learners. Given that KCSE is the most consequential examination in our education system, isn't it fair that we level the ground for all learners to excel by narrowing the capacity gaps between the worst and best schools to deliver quality education? Usawa Agenda calls for a sub-county schools upgrading program and a change from the capitation model